So in this lesson on the Persian Empire, we're going to look at the Persian war machine. You know, the Persians had this massive empire. How did they conquer it? You know, people didn't just lay down and let them do it. They had a very effective and a very large army. So let's have a look at it. So we're going to learn about the Persian war machine, to understand why it was effective, and again to think analytically, not to find out what happened, to think about why. Keywords: infantry. Soldiers who fight on foot are referred to as infantry. Armour: shield, helmet, spear, sword, typical infantry weapons. Archer: guy using a bow and arrow. Composite bow, a particular type of bow that we'll look at later on. Axe: cavalry. Horse archer, somebody on a horse firing a bow and arrow, pretty difficult. Javelin, a spear you throw. Yeah, a spear you throw is called a javelin. So, let's describe the three different types of Persian infantry. Now this is actually slightly difficult to do historically. There's not fantastic, irrefutable evidence for all this. Yeah? That's one of the problems with studying ancient history. We don't have as much evidence as we would like to. We have scholars have looked at things, archaeologists dig things up. We think we've got a pretty good idea, but we are not certain. So, the main Persian infantry are archers. The vast majority of any Persian army is going to be made up of archers. Yeah? Very important to always remember this. Archers. And they use what's called a composite bow. We'll look at it more in class. It's basically it's a very advanced and complex way of making a bow. It makes a very short bow very, very powerful. It's called a composite bow. Short but very powerful bows. Can shoot an arrow effectively maybe 500, 600, 700 meters, we think. Yeah. Armour, helmet, as you can see here, virtually no Persians seem to have worn helmets. They have this sort of caps, they're called tiaras, like turban on their heads. Virtually no helmets, as far as we can tell. Occasionally officers seem to wear them, generals, nobody else. A little bit of armour. Some of them seem to be wearing armour. You'll see it in more pictures later on, but not very thick armour. Working with the archers are guys called sparabara. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, I've never seen it written down. These guys here. Huge shields, like doors. They've got a spear and a huge shield. They go at the front, we think. They form a wall of these shields, spears to keep people away, and they're protecting the archers. Loads of archers. You'd have one bloke here, and maybe we think 9 archers lined up behind him. So one shield bearer with 9 guys behind him shooting arrows. And this is the bulk of the Persian infantry. Archers and some blokes to protect the archers. These guys are not trained to run forward and fight. It's pure that they just defend. We do think though the Persians had some what we call heavy infantry. Looking a bit like this, we think. The best evidence we've got is from some palaces in Persia. These are what we call the immortals. How we think these guys here are wearing ceremonial dress, a bit like the guys outside Buckingham Palace. They're in the British Army, but in battle they wouldn't be wearing a red coat and a big black hat. Similarly, these guys, they've got the weapons, but they're wearing fancy dress, if you like. In battle, we think they wore something a bit more like this. Underneath here, again, may have been some armour. We think there was some armour, but not very thick. No helmet. A shield here, like a violin. But again, lightweight, not a metal shield, not a very thick shield. If you look at both the shields here, you'll notice they're basically like baskets. They're made of wicker. They're made of a mixture of cowhide and leather and wicker work, a basket work. Not very big, not very heavy, not very strong shields. Good for stopping arrows, not much else. So lots of images here of the three different types. Here's more archers. Again, they're shooting up in the air. We'll practice that. Different types here. We think a lot of Persian infantry carried this sort of axe weapon here. It's called a saka. Spears, maybe 5 foot long, shorter than the Greek spears. Short swords, lots of short swords we think, no long swords. Also here, a good picture here, some of us have these strange sort of crescent moon looking shields. Another one here. Yeah. So there you go. That, we think, we'll do more work on this in class, more evidence. But that's the three different types of Persian infantry. Mostly archers, some blokes with big shields to defend the archers, and some sort of heavy infantry, we think they're called the Immortals, who had smaller shields and a bit more armour. But no one's got any helmets. So, based on question 1 and the answer to it, or task 1, how did the Persians like to fight? I hope you can see this, I hope you can figure it out. The Persians want to fight at a distance. They don't want to get close up to you and stab you with their spears. They want to stay away from you and shower you with arrows. That's what their army's set up for. And the other big advantage, the big thing the Persians had was cavalry. Guys on horseback are referred to as cavalry. Yeah. Lots of horse archers. This, by the way, is an incredibly difficult skill that we'll have a go at ourselves. As you can see, this picture here is based on a carving from a palace. So lots of horse archers. Some slightly heavier cavalry, a bit of armour helmet, throwing javelins. Yeah, we have lots of guys who are javelin throwers. Now, if you look very carefully at all these pictures, I want you to pick out a couple of things. Pretty important things. I'm not going to say it now, I'm going to talk about it in class. Look at the pictures. What don't these horsemen have that modern horsemen would have? And why is it so important? In the task here, limitations, there's a problem. There's a technological problem for the ancient Persian cavalry. And I think if you look at the pictures, you should be able to figure it out. And we'll talk about it a lot more in class.